My name is Elias, and I am the last person to ever work the night shift at the Blackwood Museum of Antiquities. They offered me triple the standard rate. I should have asked why. The museum doesn't house gold or fossils. It houses things that people wanted to disappear. Cursed journals, music boxes that play tunes no human ever composed, and mirrors that don't reflect the room you're standing in. The manager, a man with skin like parchment, gave me only one rule. Don't listen to the artifacts. If they call your name, it's not because they know you, it's because they want you to know them. At 10 p.m., the heavy oak doors locked automatically. I was alone with 3 floors of haunted history. Or so I thought. The first hour was silent, just the hum of the ventilation and the rhythmic tapping of my boots on the marble floor. But as I entered the south wing, the place they call the Whispering Gallery, the air changed. It became thick, like walking through water. I walked past a display case containing an old, cracked porcelain doll. Its eyes followed my flashlight. I checked the lock, secure. But when I turned my back, I heard a sound that made my blood turn to ice. A soft, muffled giggle. I spun around. The doll hadn't moved. But its reflection in the glass, its reflection was standing up, pressing its tiny, painted hands against the inside of the case. I told myself it was the shadows. I told myself I was tired. I moved to the security station to check the cameras, hoping the digital glow of the monitors would bring me back to reality. But on camera 4, I saw something that reality couldn't explain. I was standing in the hallway on the screen, but in the video, there was a tall, shadow-like figure standing directly behind me, its long fingers inches away from my neck. I looked over my shoulder. There was nothing there. But when I looked back at the monitor, the figure was looking directly into the camera, and it was smiling. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I ended up in the mirror room, a circular hall lined with floor-to-ceiling silvered glass from the 18th century. I stopped to catch my breath, my flashlight beam dancing wildly over the reflections. But something was wrong. In the mirrors, the hallway behind me didn't end. It stretched on forever into a dark abyss that didn't exist in the real room. And then, the scratching started. It was coming from inside the glass. I saw a hand, pale, with fingers too long to be human, press against the surface of the central mirror. The glass didn't shatter, it rippled like water. "Elias," a voice whispered. It didn't come from the room, it came from inside my own head. "Elias, look closer." I felt a magnetic pull. My feet moved without my permission. I leaned toward the glass, and for a split second, my reflection wasn't me. It was a hollow-eyed version of myself, dressed in clothes from a century ago, screaming silently behind the silver veil. I tore myself away and stumbled into the storage basement, tripping over a crate. Inside was a heavy, dark fabric, a weighted blanket, identical to the one I had seen in the police reports of the Blackwood disappearance. As I lay on the floor, the blanket seemed to slide out of its box on its own. It crawled toward me like a massive, flat insect. I tried to stand, but the air in the basement had become heavy, literally. Every breath felt like inhaling lead. The shadows in the corners of the room began to detach themselves from the walls. They weren't just shapes. They were memories of the people who had owned these objects before they vanished. The museum wasn't a collection. It was a trap. A giant stone spiderweb designed to catch anyone foolish enough to watch over it at night. The cameras weren't there to protect the artifacts from us. They were there to record what the artifacts did to us. The sun began to bleed through the high, barred windows of the museum. 5:58 a.m. 2 minutes left until the locks would click open and I could run into the cold morning air. I made it back to the lobby, my hands shaking as I reached for the heavy brass handles of the main entrance. But the silence was gone. The museum was vibrating. From every wing, every room, every dark corner, I heard them. The artifacts. The scraping of the mirror, the giggle of the doll, the heavy sliding of the blanket. They were all coming for the lobby. I turned around one last time. The tall shadow from the monitor was standing at the end of the hallway. It wasn't moving anymore. It was just pointing at the staff-only board. My name, Elias, was no longer written in ink. It was carved into the wood, old and weathered, as if it had been there for 100 years. The clock struck 6. The doors behind me groaned and swung open. I didn't look back. I ran until my lungs burned and the city noises drowned out the whispers. I quit that day. I didn't even go back for my paycheck. But a week later, a package arrived at my door. No return address. Inside was a small silver key with a tag that read, "Property of the Blackwood Museum, night shift." I haven't slept since. Because every night, when I close my eyes, I don't see my bedroom. I see those long marble hallways. And I realize I never actually left the museum. I'm just another artifact, waiting for the next guard to find me.